Hello and welcome. On this episode of Abby Normal Garage, we do a Thursday tool overview. On this episode of Thursday Tool Overview, we go a completely different direction with our Echo CS-3510. We bought this when it first came out. I want to say it was 3 years ago now. We bought this as a lighter alternative to our CS-590 Timberwolf. We did use the Timberwolf to clear the bank along the field during COVID, and it's kind of heavy when you use it for like 6 hours. So as soon as this became available, we decided to get it. This is the latest victim in our deferred maintenance program, using government terminology there. So last year, we were trimming the trees on the driveway side of the driveway, not the field side. And anyway, we were cutting for like 2 hours each day. We would go limb up 2 trees, throw the limbs in the trailer, drive them down, throw them in the river, and just go about our day. We did that for about a week. And unlike normal, I wasn't sharpening the chain after each time, and it seemed to cut just fine. Well, that all changed a couple weeks ago when there was a tree that came floating down the river in a high water event, and it got stuck, and it was undercutting the bank. It looked like it was going to storm again real bad, so to try to guarantee that it goes away, I went down there with this and cut it up. So, and in the process of doing that, we dinged the chain up pretty good on some rocks and so forth. So, it definitely needs to be sharpened and blown off and the good old stuff that you normally do. But before we do that, let's go into the specifications of this thing. This is a 34.4 cc 2-stroke engine. It's got the easy start spring-loaded starter, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but it works all right. It's got a translucent 9.5 ounce fuel tank. It also has a translucent oil reservoir, so you can quickly check your fuel and oil level. Features it shares in common with every single chainsaw in the world is it's got a chain brake, an automatic chain oiler. It's got a chain stop here if your chain comes off. Like most modern saws, it's got anti-vibration, and it is very effective, as you can see. You really don't feel this thing much when it's in your hand, so it's quite nice. It weighs 9.8 pounds, which is a lot lighter than like 13 pounds of our 590. That's one reason why we got it. You've got a little primer bulb here. The choke is here, and the kill switch is right here. And obviously the throttle is here. You know, a couple things we don't like about this thing is compared to the CS-590, it's a little underpowered when you're going into big, heavy hardwood stuff, but, you know, the weight saving of this saw is so much greater. It makes you much more mobile on a river bank or a road bank or whatever. Another thing I don't really like about it is these snaps to get the air filter out. They're kind of a pain. You have to use a screwdriver to get them out. Other than that, things that we do like about this saw is, again, it is much lighter than the 590, which we had before. We like the transparent fuel tanks. The model before this was the CS-3510, I believe, and it didn't have any of this stuff. We had to take the side cover off to show you the features. We're going to go ahead and clean this up, but anyway, one of my favorite features about this saw, and it kind of helped steer me towards it, is on this saw it has the clutch outside of the chain. And one of the things that does is it reduces the felt gyroscopic effects, so it gives it a way more balanced feel when you're running it, which is pretty neat. I think some of the Husqvarnas do this. This is definitely an improvement from our CS-590. It has the clutch on the inside, but anyway, I thought I would show that to you. So the first step in our maintenance is going to be, we're going to pull the bar off. We're going to soak the chain in mineral spirits to get the oil residue off. I guess you're kind of going to get a sneak peek of our chainsaw toolkit. So the first thing we're going to do is use this tool. And if you look here in the bar, it's got a bunch of packed up wood along the bottom rail. I don't think it'll show up on camera, but basically you use this tool. Look at that. Yeah. And that's a result of the oil mixing with the wood and packing up. It's usually good to do this after every run. We've obviously been very delinquent with it. Okay. Come on over to this side. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's bad. Make sure our oil holes are open. Now I'm going to use some carb cleaner and kind of spray in the groove to make sure I get more of it. Then I'll take compressed air and blow it out. Other than that, with the bar, what I like to do with the bars is I have this bar tool, and all you do with this is you set it alongside the bar like that. Take a path and make sure that it grinds equally on both sides. That'll make sure your bar is even. Which our bar is pretty even, so we're going to go ahead and go with it. Another thing you do with the bars is you get this grease gun here, and it's got a hole on each side. You give the sprocket bearing a pump on both sides. Other than that, that's pretty much all we're going to do with the bar. Now we are going to install it upside down because most of our cutting on this bar has been on this side. To ensure that it wears evenly, we're going to install it upside down. Next thing we're going to do is take our compressed air and get all this crud out. Eye protection is definitely critical for that task. You want to make sure the oil passage is open, and the oil comes out of here on this one, so it's good. Now we'll go ahead and blow the cover out, which I'm going to go outside and do this, so I'll be right back. Now that that's blown out, this gives you a good idea of the how it all works. This here is your chain tensioner adjustment. This is your brake band, and it's actuated by this lever up here. No, this is not a ragu container. We soak our chain in mineral spirits. That helps break down any sap or oils or anything like that that's on it. Alright, to tighten our chain, we're going to hold the tip of our bar up, and we're going to slowly turn in our adjuster, like so. That feels pretty good. Okay, now that that's tight, we're ready to sharpen our chain. I'm terrible at using files and keeping the angle consistent, so years ago I found this Timberline chainsaw sharpening jig, and I've been using this ever since. Now, this does not file the depth gauges, so after you sharpen it, you do have to check your depth gauges. But usually they don't need filing that much. So to put this thing on, you set it on the bar. You slide this, let's see here, we'll put it here. You slide it here. You slide the bit in like so, and you get it to where it's about even. And then you tighten these side screws up to where it's just level. And then I turn this in enough just to touch the side of the chain. Right now it's not touching the chain at all. To make that happen, we get to turn this screw here, which advances this whole mechanism and makes it touch. So, it's not touching there either. And you want it to where it just barely touches to put an edge on. A little bit more. It's touching barely. Okay. That feels pretty good. I'll go a little bit more. Now that we got this set up, we'll color this length of chain, and we'll pull our cutter out, and then you just advance the chain And we're going to do all the cutters that are angled this way first. So you just stick it in. Just slowly turn it in with light pressure. Skip ahead. Should be 2 more teeth. Like so. Just slowly turn it in. Now this uses carbide burrs, which are very effective. And they last a good while as long as you don't use them to take a lot of material off in one sitting. Well, we're going to go ahead and run through this, and we'll come back when we get to the other direction. Now we're at a point where we're going the other direction. To do that, we go in this hole instead. We did have to move our jig a little bit, but we did not touch the depth adjustment, so it should be taking the same material off each side. That way it cuts evenly. And like I say, it doesn't take that long to go through and do this, especially if you do it routinely, which we have not for a little bit, so we're taking off more material this time than we typically would. Alright, we're done with this. Let's go ahead and blow this thing off and put it away for next year. And last but not least, we'll take our raker gauge. I usually do my chains at 25 thousandths on this saw. And you set it to where this depression here is over the tooth of the chain. And that raker's good. That one's good. I'm not going to check all of them. That one's good. Okay, so it doesn't look like we got to file our rakers that time. That's great. Last thing I want to do is take a look at the air filter on this thing. And like I say, this is my most hated feature of this whole saw, is these clips. Once you get them off, it ain't too bad. Oh yeah, we've definitely got a little bit of buildup on the filter. Okay, let's pop this thing off real quick. I don't have a new filter handy, so that'll work for now. We'll go ahead and order one though. Alright. One feature about these chainsaws that a lot of people don't know is that it has this plug that you can move from side to side depending on what season it is. So if you put the season in the winter position, if you put the plug in the winter position, like this snowman here, it takes hot air off the cylinder head and blows it into the intake area to prevent carburetor issues. But being it's summertime, we're going to go ahead and put that in the summer position, and that'll make it suck fresh air from down here instead of around the cooling jacket. One thing I forgot to mention about this saw, which a lot of bigger saws have, is it's got these guidelines. It's got these guidelines here, and I want to say on the side cover as well. And what you do with these sight lines is you look down at, when you're cutting in the tree, you can look down the sight lines and kind of judge which direction you're cutting so you can adjust to make sure it follows the right direction. So that's a pretty useful feature. This is the part that I know Abby's not going to like, and I think she went inside. But anyway, we'll hit our chain brake, we'll pull our choke, and we'll put it between our thighs. Now that it's popped, we'll push our choke in. And basically what I want to do is run the chain enough to where it gets oil on it so it doesn't rust. Well, now we got a nice film of oil. You can see the spot on the floor where it kind of sprayed. And that's what you want. You want to adjust your oiler to where it just keeps a constant little mist. You don't need to drown the chain. Are you good, Abby? It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. So Abby doesn't really care for chainsaws, so asking her opinion on this tool, probably not a good idea. But if you know somebody that would find this video useful, feel free to share it with them. Like the video if you like the content, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And we'll see you on the next episode of Abby Normal Garage.